Hi there! Welcome to day 4 in the Sugardoo studio tour. This week we're doing a studio tour in the new Sugardoo studio, and I'm showing you all behind the scenes of what's happening in here, what I do within Sugardoo in my business, and today we're going to talk about designing patterns. Something in mind that I want to make. Let me show you. If you've missed the previous videos, I really recommend first hopping over to those and watching the first 3 days of the studio tour and then coming back to this one. So let's dive right in. I'm going to tell you all about how I get from an idea to a completed foundation paper piecing pattern. Designing a pattern for me starts by having an idea. So having something in mind that I want to make. So let's take for example the quilt that I'm now in the middle of the design process of. So I'm making a quilt for little baby Ella, and I started that with the idea of that I want to put her name on a quilt and have some type of animal with happy colors around it. I decided to go with a giraffe, so let me show you. This is where I am at so far. So I wanted to start with her name. So Ella Sophie I made with an ABC pattern that I already have. And then I wanted to add something to that in a quilt. So I designed giraffes. So to go from a sketch to something like this, there are a few steps in between. Let me tell you what they are. So first the idea needs to be formed. So the idea was using the name and then some animal in the quilt. And I came up with a giraffe. So okay, let's go with the giraffe. What I do then is I kind of doodle or sketch what I know about the giraffe, so make some shapes. But when I really can't come up with anything, I use a technique that I learned by Red and Happy. They have a doodling course, and I really loved it, and it helped me to doodle because I'm not really someone who can draw very well. So her tip was to go on Pinterest and look for images of what you want to make, and then from each image take little snippets of what you like. So for a giraffe you can look at photos or illustrations or images and then check out what their ears look like, or what the neck looks like, or those little horn things on their head, or their eyes, or their nose. Just check out different elements of the giraffe and doodle down what you like of them. And all those little tiny elements you can then later combine into something that you like, and then you can make it your own. So you're not copying designs, that's not the idea, but you just dot down things. Hey, I like the way an ear looks like that, or I like how a spot on the giraffe's body looks like. So jot that down, and then that helps you doodle. At least it helps me doodle, because I'm not really a good drawer, but I don't see myself as a good drawer, but this helps. And then I have a sketch, and then I need to come from that sketch to something that I can make with foundation paper piecing. And I guess that is the hardest part, because then I need to decide all the rounded shapes need to be straight lines. So let me show you over here. So this is a rounded shape when you would draw it, but here it's just straight lines, so you can sew them. And also over here, this nostril is a rounded shape, an oval, when you would draw it, but here it is with straight lines. So converting a sketch to something like this, I think that's the most difficult part of designing a foundation paper piecing pattern. But that is something that I do on my iPad. So I sketch it in my iPad, and then I put another layer over it. I use the app Procreate, and then I draw with straight lines. Yeah, and then I kind of form the pattern. And when that is done, so I know how to sew it, then I go and put it in my computer program Electric Quilt 8. So that is what I use to make my patterns. And in that program I can really make the pattern with the numbers that go with foundation paper piecing patterns. And there I can play around with different types of fabric or colors, or yeah, to see how a pattern is going to look like. I can play with quilt layouts. So that is a really nice step, and that already feels really final. So I can then really try out what I like, and I know how it's going to look before I'm going to really sew it. I am talking about foundation paper piecing all the time because that is my favorite quilting technique. I love foundation paper piecing, and I also teach foundation paper piecing. So just in case you've missed it, in October, the 5th of October, the doors to my foundation paper piecing course are going to open again. And in that course you learn how to confidently do foundation paper piecing. So no matter if you've never tried foundation paper piecing, or if you have done it before but are still feeling like a beginner, you can do the course, and I help you to really get confident in doing foundation paper piecing. We are going to do it on tea bag paper or tracing paper, and also with freezer paper. So we're doing a few different methods, and you can see what method you like best to do foundation paper piecing. And tomorrow in the live Q&A I have some really cool news about that foundation paper piecing course. So if you're thinking about joining the course, I really check out the live Q&A tomorrow. So then after I have put everything in Electrical 8 and I'm happy with how everything looks, then I'm going to make it. So I print out the pattern and I cut out my fabrics and I make the blocks, and then I'm actually at this stage, so that I have sewn something and I have it on my design board, and this I now need to put together. So I actually thought that I'm going to make the neck of the giraffe go also under the name. So I just need to make a few more pieces of the neck, and then I can sew this together, then I can quilt it, and then the project is finished, and then I can take pictures of it. And I think it's very important to make it and take pictures of it, because then when you're looking to make a new pattern, it's lovely to see the finished quilt, the finished product. Then you can see how it looks instead of just having a digital mock-up. I really like to see how it turns out when it's made with actual fabric. So after this would be sewn together, then I would be making pictures, and without those pictures and written instructions and the pattern that rolls out my Electrical 8 program, I can put together a quilt pattern. And somewhere in between, of course, I also send the pattern to testers to also make the pattern, because with a few people making the same pattern, you always get more feedback than when I would just make it myself. Then I would probably miss something or don't see everything that's in there. So it's really lovely to have testers to help me make the patterns and see if everything is correct. I just remembered one thing that I didn't mention in the design process. So picking out colors, I actually don't do that in Electrical 8. I just use that to color in the pattern to see what it looks like. But when I'm designing, I love to use my little box. This box is filled with little Kona color snippets. Look what is in here. So these is the Kona color card, but then partially cut up in pieces. So whatever is not cut up are mostly colors that I don't very often use. But these are all color samples, and I've cut up the color card because then you can put them together. Then you can mix and match and really see what the colors look like together. If you want to mix in an orange over there, or if you maybe want to go for green. I love to play around with this, especially when I'm thinking of a big project that I want to make in quilt kits. It's perfect to do this with solids. And one of the reasons that I love doing this with solids is that I can always reorder those. So the Kona colors are always available. That is not the case for quilting cotton with print. So for example, this is print by Sassafras Lane, one of my favorite designers, and I can order those whenever they are new. When they come out, I can order a bunch of it, but then they disappear and you can't reorder them most of the time. So I love, when I do a bigger project, I love to do it with solids. You can always mix and match them with prints from your own collection, of course. And I know I can reorder them whenever there's a lot of interest for a specific quilt kit. I guess that is my whole design process of making quilt patterns. Yeah, so from making a sketch through my iPad and Procreate, through Electric Quilt 8 on my computer, and then to fabric and testers, and then I use Adobe programs to turn it into PDF, which will end up in my shop as a PDF pattern, or might go to print when I design a book. That is how I design my quilt patterns. That makes already the final video of this studio tour. So in the previous videos I've shown you around in the studio. Today I've talked about how I design my patterns, and tomorrow there is going to be a live Q&A. So if there's anything that you want to ask me that I haven't talked about, or if there's something that you would love me to show in the studio, just come over to the live Q&A tomorrow and ask your questions there. And remember, there's also going to be a really cool announcement about the coming up Foundation Paper Piecing course in October. Thank you so much for joining me today in this final video on the studio tour. Make sure to also watch the others if you haven't seen them, and I'll hope to see you tomorrow in the live Q&A. Bye bye!